Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Blue Knight 7 of the Blue Knight Cast, talking about anything and everything video games. And I think we're hitting a little better stride than we were, and I'm coming in at episode 16. And today I was going to do sort of a rumor roundup with a reason for Nintendo. Nintendo Switch, Nintendo Switch 2. And because a lot of weird things happened in the last couple of days that I think is worth talking about. It's making a round with other, I'll just say, the big YouTubers right now. So I thought I might ought to weigh in with my 2 cents. And I'm trying to round up the gist of it all for you all. Maybe a couple things that haven't been put together yet. But to make a real long story short, we may have some sort of Nintendo announcement, direct mini, however you want to label it. We may have something on Wednesday, as in 1 week before the April 2nd Switch 2 Direct, if you can believe that. To me, that's a lot to soak in. It could be true, but I'll walk you through some information that's out there and help you decide. How's that? And if you're enjoying this content, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'm trying to reach, my current goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers and enough view hours to get monetization. I've noticed the last string of videos I've done has been getting more views than the early ones, which is good. I want growth, and I hope this keeps going. I'm going to try to keep kicking them out consistently to see if I can help myself in the algorithm. But if you could share or like, subscribe, share this, whatever you could do, it would help me a lot. Thank you. So what got this started is basically a few random leakers popped up with some things all once, and they all either hint at a game being revealed sooner or later, or a possible Nintendo Direct. And I know that sounds crazy, because a little over a week from now, we should be having the actual April 2nd Direct that people have waited over a year for, I would say. At least since Nintendo President Shintaro Furukawa announced that the Nintendo Switch successor will be announced this fiscal year in May last year. Which they did do in January. They did a reveal teaser, but I would argue, well, even before that, people were wanting to hear something. But ever since that, ever since President Furukawa, sorry, I'm fighting some allergies today. But ever since President Furukawa announced that there was a successor coming soon, or at least being announced this fiscal year, people have been frothing at the mouth just to get information and just kind of get what I would call the Switch 2 blowout. Like, what games is it launching with? What will it cost? When will we actually be able to buy it? I think all of that has just been hung in the air for over a year. And Nintendo's done a commendable job putting out some Switch 1 games in the meantime, but people just want that jump. So we've known for a bit, probably longer than any other Direct in advance, that this April 2nd Direct is coming. And we also spent a good chunk of February expecting maybe some surprise Direct or something, just to get some Switch 1 games announced or clear out any other Switch 1 announcements they might have before April 2nd. there was some talk, chatter, leaker chatter about that. Necro Felipe in particular saying he thinks there's going to be one, but he only had one source telling him that this time instead of two, like he did when he correctly guessed I believe it was the June Direct last year. And also those August, like the Nintendo World Directs, he was able to predict those, though he basically missed the mark on February, the way I remember it. And other leakers like Samus Hunter kept saying there would be a February Direct, and it didn't happen. Nate the Hate, though, and I'll admit I probably favor Nate the Hate on my leakers, though none of them you should take as being 100% right all the time. And you shouldn't get mad when they are wrong either. I mean, to me, this is all good fun. But hype building, anticipation. But I noticed Nate the Hate last time for February said he hadn't heard anything. It didn't happen. He hasn't said anything recently, by the way. The last thing he said, really, last couple of things he said that we've been kind of waiting to hear of, though, was that we were getting a Kirby Planet Robobot remaster for Switch 1, and that there's been a Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War remake made for Switch 1 and just been sitting, hadn't been released yet. Now, we also have known for a bit that Switch 1 is getting Metroid Prime 4. We've known that one for about 7-8 years, right? And we've known that Pokemon Legends ZA is coming for Switch 1. And they both have 2025 release dates. But that's it. And for the first time in a long time, we have a situation where, yeah, Nintendo has some games in development, but we don't have precise release dates for anything. That's kind of unusual in the Switch era. Nintendo's done a pretty good job making sure there's stuff in the queue. But this is kind of different right now. Okay, now that I've kind of set the scene, let's get into the weeds here. So, what started a lot of this, I think, was Necro Felipe putting on Twitter yesterday, I believe, and through his website on Universo Nintendo, and it's in Portuguese. I'm not going to go through translations and stuff, but he also tweeted about it, or posted on X about it, I should say. Rumor: Nintendo Direct for current Switch games could happen this week. Tips came from 2 different sources, pointing to March 26. Okay, he has 2 sources this time. That's usually when he's right. So that's the first thing that pricked my eyebrows up. Another one is Nin Spider, who actually has a pretty good reputation. He's best known for leaking the hardware stuff earlier on, as in the appearance of the hardware on Family boards. Who has been saying a presentation of some sort is coming this month as well. As this is, and I'm not on Family boards, this is as reported by Go Nintendo. And I'll try to put some links in the description here for everybody who wants to follow what I'm talking about. But Ninspider did previously leak Switch 2 dock designs, the fact that the Joy-Cons are magnetic, and he's saying, yeah, he was expecting something on March 26th too. Okay, or at least in March. I should just say March. And last certainly not least, I would point to Andy Robinson of Video Games Chronicle, VGC. And, he is a gaming journalist that, generally speaking, does hear stuff. He's usually their website does not put out every little rumor. They don't even talk half the time unless they just think there's really something to it. And the funny part is he didn't really say anything just recent. But all of this is March 23rd. But on X, Stealth 40K, he's a good Nintendo content person to follow. He, generally speaking, analyzes Nintendo news, has more of an economics, marketing point of view. More so, I guess, marketing is what I should say. And he does analyze stuff to an extent, and, pretty good to follow and just kind of understand things a little more on the business side. But Stealth made a post on X discussing just the timing of things, where he said, quote, Nintendo made the right call not having any more Switch Directs before the big Switch 2 presentation. It feels like a drought of Nintendo news now. But I think Nintendo wants people talking about Switch 2 announcements, not Switch announcements at the same time. Now, just very quickly, I'll just say that I kind of disagree, because I think when we get to Switch 2, we're going to see some Switch 1 games. Like, that has been my belief, because we didn't see anything in February. Also, I just think Nintendo would like the marketing angle of all these games can be played on Switch 2. But we'll just see. We'll just have to see what happens with that. I have no way of knowing. But the reason I bring this post up today is Andy Robinson, quote, posted it. And for his part of the message, he just put the thinking emoji. The yellow smiley face with a hand over his mouth, like, That's all he did, ladies and gentlemen. All he did. And that's just caused an uproar, for lack of a better word. It really has. I'll try to link that post as well. But it's caused a big thing. And looks like one of the first replies is a thread on Gaming Leaks and Rumors Reddit. Andy Robinson, VGC, hints that there may be another Nintendo announcement before the Switch 2 Direct. It doesn't take much, people. Right now, the hysteria is so high. It doesn't take much at all. He doesn't have many replies to it, but about everybody on YouTube has talked about it, from what I've seen, or at least the ones I follow. So, yeah, that's the tweet. So just stopping here for a minute. We got 3 people of some all 3 of these have a track record. Okay, they leak stuff. And they have a track record where they are right. They can be right. I'm just going to take this one by one. At the end of this, I'm still saying take it all with a grain of salt. Like, I'm not convinced. But just hear me out. Nin Spider, I'll go with him first. Generally speaking, he's probably... I'm not aware of him being wrong on stuff. I'm not a Nin Spider follower or expert. If someone wants to comment as to why I shouldn't believe Nin Spider, I would listen. But to me, when Nen Spider says something, he probably heard it. It may have changed, it may be wrong, but he probably did hear it. So I don't think that's leading people wrong. Necro Felipe. He's checkered. His record is checkered. Not faulting the man. He's a journalist. He's run with what he has. But sometimes his sources haven't been right, is my point. But he says he has two. He's the one saying March 26th. And he has been known to kind of own up to it when he's wrong. So I'm trying to give him, I'm willing to give him the benefit of a doubt the way he's conducted himself in the past, is what I'm trying to say. Do I think he's right? I'm not totally convinced. But there may be something there. And Andy Robb, I think everybody's just pumping that full. Gosh. There's a part of me that's like, if I was Andy Robinson, I would have done that just to start trouble. So I don't know, I'm not reading too much into the thinking emoji people. I'm sorry, I'm just not. I noticed it just has like 167 likes as it is, 17 bookmarks, but I don't know. He may have heard something, but I'm not looking at this like, I know there's going to be a direct this week. Brace yourselves. I'm not going to do that. Now, if it did happen, I'm going to say very pleasant surprise. Very pleasant surprise. And, part of me would like to see it just because I know I said I believe there's going to be Switch 1 games in the April 2nd Direct, and they still could be. But, I believe Metroid Prime 4 is going to be there. But wouldn't shock me if Pokemon Legends ZA made an appearance somehow. But if they had a bunch of third-party Switch 1 games or indie games that they just wanted to announce, they could have made a block for them or a sizzle reel for them on April 2nd, but if they could just do it now in a direct mini, Kirby Planet Robobot, put it in. This Fire Emblem stuff, put it in. Whatever else they have. I'll keep talking about Metroid Prime 2 and 3 and Wind Waker, Zelda, Legend of Zelda, Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess. If they were doing them, I guess it would be a good time to put them in. Just free up time on airtime for the Switch 2 Direct on April 2nd. I mean, it's not crazy, but it's kind of crazy because you've already built up all this hype for April 2nd, and then people, I know people who clear time on their work schedule, so on, just so they can watch it live. And there's people who took time off that morning on April 2nd just to watch that direct and maybe rush and get a pre-order for Switch 2 if they can. Are we really putting one more disruption on people? I know for me personally, like my real life, I'm probably not going to be able to watch it live on Wednesday if there was a direct surprise Wednesday. So, I don't know. I can't rule it out. But it just seems it's like awful last minute before something very big. So it's just kind of hard for me to believe that. Now, that being said, I'll give you two other things that have come up. Again, massive grains of salt. But Nash Weedle also posted on X on March 23rd. Saturday was just kind of a big, or Sunday was just kind of a big day for this stuff, apparently. Now, for those who don't know Nash Weedle, he's also a known leaker. And his track record is mixed, to the point that some people don't want to follow him or pay attention to him. But he has been hitting pretty good recently. So, again, grains of salt. But he made a post where it's flame emoji, a purple emoji that I'm taking as emblem. I know other people are too. And the number 2. That's all it is. And most people take it to mean Fire Emblem 2. Now, not sure what to make of that. Because if you take Fire Emblem 2 literally, I think it's the NES or Famicom game Fire Emblem Gaiden that never got released to the West. It would not be Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War. That should be Fire Emblem 4. So, that's a little confusing in itself. Now, something we did see during the Switch 1 era was Nintendo released the NES Fire Emblem game for the Switch on the eShop, and also as a collector's edition, and they did it for a limited time. But if you were in the West, that was your officially translated Fire Emblem NES experience that you never had before. We had Shadow Dragon on the DS, but it was a remake. So I'm looking at this like Fire Emblem 2. What does that mean? Could they be giving it the same treatment they gave Fire Emblem? Could this be another remake we didn't know about? Could it be that everybody kept saying Genealogy of the Holy War when it was Fire Emblem Gaiden? I wouldn't think so. Could it be that we just have both of these games released as a double pack? I guess. Stranger things have happened. But it's all kind of curious, is my point. I think one thing we could say, though, is that Intelligent Systems has probably had time to do something. Because the last Fire Emblem game, Engage, was released, I think it was beginning of 2023, and it had been finished for a while before that. And of course they worked on Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake. But they've probably had time to cook with something. So, could it be a remake of Fire Emblem 2 to go along with Genealogy of the Holy War? Which is supposed to have been done for a while too? Maybe. I don't think we really know what's going on over there, at least as far as Intelligent Systems goes. But it does, I'm just taking this to mean, yeah, there's something going on, and we may be seeing something Fire Emblem soon. Also, and I feel like I'm going to get something thrown at me here from even bringing it up. Why not? And I'm citing NintendoLife.com article for this. Hollow Knight Silksong Steam page update kicks off another round of fan speculation. Here we go again. The summary of it is there was a change to Silk Song's page on Steam. And the change basically added on the fact that this game would be available on NVIDIA's GeForce Now service. So whenever Silksong releases, it's playable on GeForce Now. Also tweaked the copyright date, and people have been able to see where some hidden assets have been changed. So, most people probably wouldn't even care if it was any other game, but it's Silksong, which has been basically radio silent for about 3 years now. It was supposed to be like DLC for Hollow Knight years ago, and now it's kind of expanded into its own game project. And everybody keeps expecting to see it at the next Xbox showcase or the next Nintendo Direct, and it never happens. To the point it's been kind of a joke. Like, will we finally see Silksong? I'm going to say something's moving around here, like we may see something soon. Who knows? Because that's the one thing I don't want to bet on. But we may see something on this game soon. And I don't think changes to the Steam page tells me much, except that it's going to be a big deal when this game is announced as part of anyone's announcement show. It's going to get attention on all platforms whenever it gets announced, even if it's in a Nintendo Direct. So, I'm assuming this would still be a Switch 1 game upon release. And with that in mind, there could be a Switch 2 version down the road, or some kind of upgrade to Switch 2. But for now, what I'm thinking is they could, and I thought April 2nd Direct could be possible, but that's not something I want to really predict or put out on the record. But could we see Silksong at April 2nd Direct? Possibly. Could we see Silksong announced before the April 2nd Direct? Like March 26th? I doubt it. I would think they would want the big event that everybody's watching. So, I don't know. Now, another thing you need to consider is even if Nintendo does intend to announce stuff, it wouldn't be weird if they spent this week announcing stuff on X, like just X post every day with something, instead of a Direct. I wouldn't rule that out, because I would think that would be a lot easier on their team to get done than planning a Direct Mini before the April 2nd Direct. Because I do understand, like the April 2nd Direct, like other Directs, to be something where they're always working on it up to the last minute, trying to get trailers coordinated, try to get different footage of like developers and different random things coordinated. So that just seems like a lot right next, like a lot of work for two different things right next to each other. So it's kind of hard for me to say that's going to happen. But there's a bunch of stuff in the air here. I mean, there's games we're hearing about that through leakers that haven't been announced. There are quality leakers, I would say. At least they're the ones everybody talks about. Commenting that they've heard this or that, or they're expecting something. And then you got Andy Robinson with a thinking emoji. It's just enough to make everybody pay attention. So I'm just going to say we're at a time where we should be smiling and have fun with all this. We know a big direct's coming on April 2nd. We already know that. That's sort of security we've had that we not used to having. So let's just laugh, enjoy this, laugh at it a little bit. If something comes Wednesday, I'll look it up when I can and I'll be happy. That's all I can say. No matter what they show, I'll look at it for what it is, be happy. It's a good time to be a Nintendo fan, isn't it? To me, it really is. It really is. There's a lot of hope. There's a lot of optimism. You know, Switch 1, the period leading up to its January blowout, it was optimistic. Just as someone who lived through it, it was optimistic, but you kind of wondered, are they really getting it right this time? It seemed like they were. But I felt like I was paying attention a little more than normal, like sales numbers, news about sales numbers, news about this or that, because I actually wanted a platform that everybody was playing on that would get third-party support. And it did. But, you know, it was like a concern because Wii U, Nintendo was GameCube, Wii U. It was a very unstable time for Nintendo. And, you know, they had a lot of success with the Wii, but the support fell off because it wasn't, the crowd it drawed wasn't the crowd they needed. You'll probably see me do an episode just talking about that one day. And there was a lot of uncertainty going into this Switch console. I mean, it seemed like like a surefire hit, but it was like, will it succeed or not? It did. But this time it's more like Nintendo has been succeeding. I would argue maybe they don't directly compete with Sony and Microsoft, but they've been dominating in their lane. And now we're getting a successor to that system that's not crazy. It's not Nintendo crazy. It'll have a few innovations, but they didn't reinvent the wheel. So the third-party devs should want to just get their games out for it at a steady pace this time. This could be like a new golden age for Nintendo. I think Switch 1 already started that, but I want this to continue to be like a new golden age for Nintendo. And I'll close the episode on that high note. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, share it. I'm just trying to get subscribers. I'm trying to get this going. And thank you for your time listening to this. Let's see what happens on Wednesday. I'll try to update, and I'll try to make something later this week updating my last minute predictions for the Switch 2 Direct. Because if they do something on Wednesday, it will probably change things I've said. But we'll just see what happens, and be safe out there. Have a good day.